Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, members of both parties are demanding answers after another set of classified documents were found, this time at the home of former Vice President Mike Pence. We'll have more on the fallout from the latest discovery.
And President Biden is giving the green light for the U.S. to step up the military support to Ukraine. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill say the M1 Abrams tank will help fend off Russian aggression.
We've got plenty of rain potential out there right now, and there's a possibility we'll switch that over to snow overnight. The latest details coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley.
And I'm Olivia Calfee. We are dealing with some strong winds right now, and that's just ahead of snow showers moving in.
Could be an eventful evening. Let's check in with meteorologist Evan Hatter for the latest on this first alert weather day. Evan?
That's right, Steve. For about another hour and a half, our wind advisory is in place as we head through the rest of tonight. You see, until 7 o'clock is when that wind advisory expires, and even before it expires, it'll still be breezy outside. We're still dealing with winds right now gusting to 36 miles per hour in Jackson, 29 in Hazard, and 30 mile per hour gusts in Harlan. So we are not done with the breeziness just yet out there, and we'll continue to see those breezes usher in colder temperatures. We're 43 Somerset, 43 in Monticello, still 52 in Hazard, and still in the mid and upper 50s in the Big Sandy. So we continue to see cold air push on in, but it's already in the 30s back toward Louisville. Few scattered showers out there, but look further to the west. We're starting to see some change over to snow in southern Indiana. We'll continue to keep an eye on that through the evening hours. We'll be down into the 30s tonight. Those winds gusting to 30, so it'll feel colder than that with rain changing to snow. I'll break it all down here in a few minutes. Guys?
Thank you, Evan. Documents marked classified found in the Indiana home of former Vice President Mike Pence have been turned over to the FBI.
This latest development is raising serious questions about how classified material is stored and transferred when a new administration takes office in Washington.
CBS's Nicole D'Antonio reports from Capitol Hill.
According to a letter from former Vice President Mike Pence's lawyer, a small number of documents bearing classified markings were inadvertently boxed and transported to his Indiana home at the end of the last administration. The lawyer says the items were discovered after attorneys swept the property out of an abundance of caution last week. Once found, they were placed in a safe until FBI agents collected them a few days later. Pence had previously said he did not believe he had any classified materials.
Our staff reviewed all of the materials in our office and in our residence to ensure that there were no classified materials that left the White House or remained in our possession.
The revelation comes as the Justice Department investigates the discovery of some 25 to 30 documents. Some found last week at President Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home and at a former D.C. office.
In the case of Vice President Mike Pence, he came forward and proactively reached out and is following the process. In the case of Joe Biden, he has had classified documents going back to his time in the Senate.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer worked to contrast President Biden's situation with that of former President Donald Trump, whose handling of documents is also under federal investigation.
One cooperated fully with the authorities, the other stonewalled for over a year. And the bottom line is simple. There are prosecutors in both cases. They ought to be able to proceed unimpeded without anyone pressuring them.
Schumer says lawmakers are now discussing bipartisan legislation dealing with classified documents. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Washington.
In a social media post, former President Trump called Pence an innocent man.
A former FBI administrator pleaded not guilty today in connection with charges that he took money from a foreign government. Charles McGonigal, a now retired former head of counterintelligence for the FBI's field office in New York, faces allegations of hiding at least $225,000 he received from a former employee of an Albanian intelligence agency. He reportedly took the money while working at the Bureau. McGonigal, who was arrested Saturday in New York, faces 20 years behind bars for the charges in D.C.
Russia's oldest human rights organization, the Moscow Helsinki Group, was disbanded today after a court ruled it did not have the correct registration. The group was founded in 1976 by Soviet dissident scientists. The group produced annual reports on Russia's human rights situation and was one of the country's few remaining independent rights organizations after the closing of Nobel Prize winner Memorial in 2021. Russia's Justice Ministry filed a lawsuit against it in December, arguing that the group was only registered to defend human rights in Moscow, not other parts of the country, an argument that the group called nonsensical. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is celebrating his birthday today, and President Biden is giving him exactly the gift he has been wanting.
Zelensky's present includes 31 American tanks, the equivalent of a Ukrainian battalion, to help fight Russia. CBS's Skylar Henry has more from Capitol Hill.
President Biden announced he's authorized the Pentagon to send U.S.-made M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine.
To help Ukraine defend its sovereignty and its territorial integrity. That's what this is about, helping Ukraine defend and protect Ukrainian land.
The president's decision is a change in policy for the White House, which had previously said the Abrams tanks were too advanced to be effectively used in Ukraine.
The Abrams tanks are the most capable tanks in the world. They're also extremely complex to operate and maintain. So we're also giving Ukraine the parts and equipment necessary to effectively sustain these tanks on the battlefield.
A bipartisan group of senators met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who told them the tanks are essential in defeating a Russian counteroffensive that appears to be in the works.
The offensive that the Russians will bring, they're massing their troops and supplies and reinforcements right now, is so imminent that we need to provide these tanks.
The decision follows intense negotiations last week with NATO allies over the supply of tanks. Germany initially resisted, but will now follow suit and begin shipping Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine.
I think there's an increasing appreciation in Germany how important their role has become in helping Ukraine.
The move could not only help Ukraine fight off the planned Russian invasion, but is expected to help them launch a counteroffensive of their own to try to drive Russia out of the country. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
President Biden called the German chancellor as well as the leaders of the UK, France, and Italy to coordinate support for Ukraine. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, a warning from the federal government about deceptive auto sales practices. What you need to know when you're planning to purchase your next ride.
Plus, we're starting to see things cool down in parts of the mountains. What this means for those Thursday snow chances coming up after this.
WYMT News app offers